Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you being here. My name is Lindsay Shah. I work for the Department of Environmental Protection, and I'm one of the principal authors of this BEPS legislation, so I'm really happy that you all are here. So BEPS, Building Energy Performance Standards. Without BEPS, we don't have any chance of reaching our climate goals. We have aggressive climate goals in Montgomery County, and without this policy, without this bill, we will not reach those goals. So I'm extremely happy that all of you are here. I do want to acknowledge some VIPs in the audience. Of course, our county executive, Marc Elrich, who'll be speaking shortly. The chair of the Transportation and Environment Committee with the Montgomery County Council, Tom Hucker. We'll also be hearing from Tom Deo, who's the CEO of the Montgomery County Green Bank. We'll be hearing from Julie Wolfington with Boland, as well as Adam Roberts with Bethesda Green. We also have some other VIPs here. David Dice, director of the Department of General Services, is here. Chris Brown as well with DGS. And the other folks who helped write BEPS with me, Stan Edwards and Emily Curley with the Department of General Services, and Cliff Majursic, who helped the county actually write this bill with the Institute of Market Transformation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the county executive to get us started, followed by Tom Hucker.
So I'm really excited to be here today. This is a big step down the path of getting things right. We started with the Green Building Code, and we sent over a Green Building Code that looked like the Green Building Code without a whole lot of modifications and reductions and requirements. And I'm appreciative the council sent it through in the best possible form. And then we moved on to the Building Energy Performance Standards, and I'm really excited. Last month, when the UN climate report was released, the UN Secretary General said it's now or never to limit greenhouse gas emissions. People have been saying this for a while. It is going to be extraordinarily difficult for everybody to do the things they need to do to turn this around, but it's got to start somewhere, and it's got to have standards that are real and are achievable. And I believe that, this is going to take us in the direction and a long way to where we have to go. The report noted that greenhouse gas emissions would have to peak before 2025 at the latest and be reduced by 43% by 2030. So we need other people to look at what we're doing. Montgomery County can't do this alone, but if everybody doesn't do their part, being first is perfectly fine. If hopefully other people see that the universe doesn't come to an end after we do this, and they decide they could walk down the same path. But sometimes you got to lead. It would be nice if we were doing this as part of a crowd, but we're going to take the lead on this. The Building Energy Performance Standards address existing buildings, and it is truly a monumental step in reaching our goals. The new law will lead to energy improvements for multifamily residential and commercial buildings that will save money and create new local jobs. And I'll say we're aware that we're going to have to put money into this. This is not going to happen by itself, neither on our properties, nor on commercial properties, nor on apartments, occupied by low-income residents. All of this is going to require additional money coming in from the county to help support these efforts. Hopefully one day the federal government will step up. But for the moment, we're going to do what we need to do to get this moving. We're leading the way in the county, but we're also leading the way in the nation. When I submitted the legislation last year, Montgomery County was among the first local jurisdictions in this nation to embark on this kind of project. My proposed legislation gained the attention of President Biden's Council on Environmental Quality and environmental activists across the country, and other jurisdictions like Denver, Colorado, actually specifically credited this proposal as their model. And so we know that people looked at it and said, we want to do this, and it made sense. So I want to thank you and the team who put this together, to put something together that was tight enough that somebody else would look at it and say, this is where we want to go. I want to thank Council President Gabe Albornoz and the entire council for the unanimous vote to enact this 21st century building energy standards that are critical. I want to thank the chair of the Transportation and Environment Committee, Tom Hucker, and Councilmember Jawando on that committee for the unanimous vote out of committee and for not doing any damage to the bill. I'm going to tell you, now that these are all signed, I'm going to tell you, when we were talking about doing this, there was a lot of discussion on staff of how do you write this so it's going to be politically acceptable? And I took what the council had said seriously, that we were embarking on a path to climate change, and we had these goals. And so I said, write the bill that gets us there. Don't figure out in advance what might happen to it. Just get it down on paper. And I hoped, and it turned out to be true, the council unanimously passed the climate change legislation, the climate change green building code, and this. So we did the right thing. I'm glad that you all responded to my request for doing this in the most stringent way possible. I'm also grateful for the participation of the building owners in this. It is good to be in a place where the building owners could actually sit down and say, yeah, this is inevitable. And it is better to be inevitable and have some time to get there than to get to the end of the rope and then decide you're in a position that's inevitable and how am I going to do this in a year or two. So this is really an important thing. I want to thank our Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, led by Acting Director and County Climate Change Officer Adriana Hochberg, for their leadership on developing this legislation and helping to get to the finish line. It was a lot of work. I know that you're doing the regs now. Hopefully all this will be in place and buildings will get benchmarked. They'll know what they need to do, and we'll be rolling down the road. I want to also thank David Dice, who's taken the lead in Montgomery County. I was at the widely unknown bus depot for school buses, where there are 45 bus chargers there charging up Montgomery County school buses, and that's something that over the period of about a decade or shorter, all the buses in the county be flipped to electric buses. So that's really important, and I want to thank you when I ask you to look at environmental stuff. You've been more than happy to do it. I feel that you get to have the same kind of energy and enthusiasm that I have for this, and I do appreciate it. We've collaborated with commercial and multifamily building sectors. We continue to have discussions with PEPCO on their role in doing things that are important, putting chargers out on the street, helping people make their transition. And finally, I want to thank the many residents, activists, and community groups who advocated for this bill. And I want to thank all of the people who've got solar roofs out there. As I drive around, and I do a lot of that, I see more roofs than ever. And now I'm starting to see 2 and 3 houses in a row. And that, to me, is the most important thing. We'll do this press conference today, and it'll go into the ether, and we'll see what happens. But the most important thing is the neighbor who put solar on their roof, who can come and show you their electric bills and say, this really made a difference. I can proudly say that I just had my installation done this week, and I'm seeing results already. 2 days ago, I used 1 kilowatt of net energy. 1 kilowatt between my storage and then pumping it into the grid overnight instead of being on the grid, pumping it into the house rather than relying on the grid. It had made that much difference. Now, I don't expect it to be like that once the air conditioner is running, but whatever it does is going to be a significant reduction in what I use. And so I'm really excited about this, and I think it's people who do this, just like those who drive electric cars, telling people what the experience is and how it actually pays off for you is going to make a difference in how rapidly this is taken up. So moving forward, we're going to continue to meet with stakeholders to get input and develop the regulations, and as well as recruit for Building Performance Improvement Board to help us implement BEPS. And finally, climate change is something that we have to address with a sense of urgency. And I think this shows the urgency we have. There are 3 major sectors. This allows us to tackle the building sector. You know what to do now. The other one is transportation. It is clear that we can actually move in transportation quicker than people thought. We're beginning to see things like you can replace the axle on the rear of a bus or the rear of a truck with an electric axle with regenerative braking. So you can take a piece of equipment that you just bought, convert it to electric, get a payback that actually makes sense. And then when the time comes to buy a fully electric vehicle, when you've worn out that vehicle, you can make that transition as well. So I think the transportation and building sectors are places we're going to be able to make a huge difference. And the biggest remaining problem is the grid. I regret that the state still is stuck at 2045. If the state were to say we want to get there earlier, the electrical transformation of this county would occur earlier. I would rather not have to build something that generates every kilowatt to replace the things we're taking in off the grid. If we knew they were going to act quicker, then we would be able to, frankly, invest some of the money in helping people make their houses more efficient. There's only a limited amount of money out there, and so where we put it at matters. But I'm really glad that we're doing this, because this is something we'd have to do anyway. So thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, David. Thank you, Leslie. This has been really, really good. I think you're next.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much, County Executive. I'm Tom Hucker. I'm the chair of the Council's Transportation and Environment Committee. I'm really excited to be here to celebrate the signing, right? Yes, okay. The signing of the BEPS legislation. I want to thank all the members of the council. As Mark said, we were able to get a unanimous vote out of the county council on this legislation because we're all so committed to taking big steps forward to address our climate commitments. I want to thank the county executive. Thanks for your leadership on this, Mark, and all your terrific staff. Adriana, I think, is not here. Too bad. But David Dice, thank you for all your hard work on this in the background, and especially Stan and Lindsay and Emily did fantastic work to get this across the finish line and put in countless hours in front of our committee to discuss all the permutations of it. And I really want to thank Tom Deo and everybody at the Green Bank and all the environmental stakeholders as well that were powerful advocates to get us to this day. I think we all agree that we have to take swift and united and decisive action to address our climate emergency and to meet the climate commitments that Councilmember Elrich sponsored in 2017 in front of the county council, and we all passed unanimously. Well, a lot has happened since 2017, and we have a little bit of catching up to do, but this bill is a huge step in the right direction. If you look at what's happened over the last couple of years, when we weren't talking about COVID, we were talking about record storms in Montgomery County, record numbers of 90 and 100-degree days, fatal flooding in Montgomery County, and historic rainfalls as well. And we can't allow that to continue. We have to prepare for it, but we have to do everything we can to mitigate against that risk in the future. We have to take action to do that on multiple fronts, and it makes sense to start where we could have the biggest impact, and that's buildings. Buildings are responsible for 50% of our carbon pollution. You can see right there in the pie chart. And we have to do that on multiple fronts. So as Mark said, we passed unanimously the Green Building Code, which is going to make sure that all the new buildings in the county are built to new climate standards and much more efficient than the generations of buildings we've all been living in and working in for years. But this legislation is about our current stock. So we have so many buildings in Montgomery County that were built in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, and they're grossly inefficient, and there's so much good work that could be done to repurpose them and to make them much more efficient than they are and to save all the electrons that the county executive was talking about. So I'm grateful to the county exec and to the council for passing this. BEPS and in combination with the Green Buildings Now Act are really going to do a lot to retrofit our current building stock. As the county executive was saying, we all have the best of intentions, and too often in this world, our statutory authority is constrained by the state. We can't control the energy mix of the state and how much fossil energy is coming into the state. We can't control how quickly we can get large solar projects online, unfortunately. And another thing we can't really control is the penalties that we can impose on building owners. So while we might see an ability to increase that in the future, the Green Buildings Now Act created a powerful carrot, a big juicy carrot to incentivize building owners through Tom Deo's good work, to incentivize building owners to invest with attractive financing in new insulation, new solar panels, new windows, and if we do this right, creating thousands of jobs for our young people and our existing workers in Montgomery County, putting those energy efficiency improvements and renewable energy arrays onto our buildings. So I'm really excited about the trifecta that I think we've passed, the Green Buildings Code, the BEPS bill today, and the Green Building Now Act. All those in combination are going to do wonders to clean up our building stock, and you'll be looking at this in the future and seeing a lot less carbon pollution coming from the building stock in Montgomery County. We have economic challenges as well, and I guess I mentioned we'll create thousands of new jobs with this legislation. So I want to just reiterate our commitment. I know I speak for all my colleagues on the council. We're all committed to reaching our goals, working collaboratively with the executive branch to do that, and today is a huge step in the right direction. Thank you so much for getting across the finish line.
Amazing, thank you. Honestly, it's really thanks to the leadership in this county that we are able to have a bill like this, that we're able to have a comprehensive approach to reducing emissions from the buildings in this county, both public and private. We really are grateful to be in this county with this type of thought to legislation that's developed. So we also have to thank our stakeholders who are involved in actually developing this legislation that we talk to very often, that we presented to, that we worked with their memberships. Really grateful for their support in developing the legislation. So I'm really excited to bring up some of those stakeholders who were involved in that process to actually get this almost perfect legislation signed today. First, I'd like to bring up Tom Hucker. I'm sorry. Already spoke, and you're right there. Tom Deo with the Montgomery County Green Bank, followed by Julie Wolfington from Boland, and Adam Roberts with Bethesda Green.
Thank you, Lindsay, and thank you, County Executive Elrich and Councilmember Tom Hucker. Isn't this a great county to be a part of? This is just a fantastic place. And reflecting on the school buses, my wife said to me the other day, she goes, "That's a pretty quiet school bus going down our street. Is that an electric school bus?" I said, yes, the county's brought them online. So thank you for doing all of that. Congratulations to County Executive Elrich, County Councilmember Hucker, and Chair of the T&E Committee for advancing this most important statute. The County Executive and the County Council saw this as a fundamental strategy for reaching the aggressive county goals of 0% by 2035, and they made it a priority for action. You could see that in the unanimous vote that the County Council did on this, that this was clearly a priority. I also want to note the process that was reflected on that Stan, Lindsay, and Emily did on the stakeholders. If you don't bring the stakeholders along, this is not going to go forward. That work was fundamental in making this work now and making this work in the future. They're there, they're going to be with you, they're going to bring their ideas to the table, but that's all about what stakeholders do. And so it's a great role that you did in terms of bringing that today. The Green Bank, we've been watching this, right? We've been getting this ready for action, and we're now ready to provide our support. In the past couple of years, we've worked with many of our financial partners in the marketplace to build an extensive toolbox of lending and investment structures that are ready to fund energy efficiency, renewable energy improvements, and be clearly useful to the adoption and these standards. The toolbox includes not only the county's commercial property assessed clean energy program, but also 4 commercial programs that the Green Bank has put together with its financial partners. At this time, we've done $10 million of supporting projects in the county, and the Green Bank has built up our experience in doing this so we can step up right now and support property owners on doing their clean energy improvements. And just to make it easier for you to understand, you can go on our website and you can look at the case studies out there, and you can see how our work and the investments we've made have helped these property owners meet their goals. In one instance, you're going to find we set up a goal to get $75,000 of energy savings in the property. That property is getting $100,000 of energy savings now. So this work pays off and it provides dividends. And now, thanks to the Green Buildings Now program, we've got more resources to help. That recent county action is going to give us millions of dollars in additional funding. It's perfectly timed to provide us with the capital where we can expand our work with those private financial capital providers out there and create that extensive resource needed by these standards. This resource is also going to help us conduct technical assistance that we can help those property owners in need. We've done this in pilot, and we've found how providing that technical assistance helps these property owners figure out a plan and then set a role to get traction under that plan. And with the resources we're getting, we're going to be able to do a much more extensive work on that. And we can be flexible with these standards. We can help properties that want to go full on, get it all done in one step, or move it in stages. We have the flexibility to work where they are. So we've got all the resources necessary in order to help this standards become real and become actionable. I just want to conclude by noting that the county's prescient action in creating a green bank is evident now, right? Because of the county's foresight, the Green Bank is perfectly poised right now to be a player and a supporter of these standards. Again, congratulations to County Executive Elrich, Council Member Hucker, and the entire County Council for passing this. Thank you. Sorry, I had a role to play. I want to introduce Julie Wolfington from Boland next. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Wolfington, and I am the Energy and Sustainability Leader for a company called Boland. We are a family-owned company right here in Montgomery County. We are an HVAC company, and because HVAC is generally 40 to 50% of a building's utility bill, that also makes us an energy company. I'm also a Montgomery County resident. My kids go to Montgomery County Public Schools, and I pay Montgomery County taxes, lots of them. So the first reason that I'm excited about this bill passing is because at my core, I am still a tree-hugging granola girl. So this bold legislation is going to make a difference. I loved hearing about that this has already started a trend. Hey, Denver. You know, this tight, bold legislation is going to be more of a trend, and we love that. That's what we need, is this type of trend. The second reason I'm excited about this bill is because, as we all know and was stated previously, buildings account for half of carbon emissions. Boland remotely connects to hundreds of area buildings to their HVAC and energy systems. So I'm an energy engineer, and I'm also a data nerd. We see tons of building data all the time. It's what we do. We look at that data, and we help building owners make decisions on how to make their buildings operate better and operate more efficiently. What I've seen over the many years of looking at that data is that most buildings are not running as efficiently as they should be. I know this is going to shock all of you here. And most of the time, it's really for no good reason. We do see some buildings that are running as efficiently as they can. They may or may not have the most energy efficient systems, but they're doing the best with what they can. They pay attention, they track, they're turning things off when they need to turn them off. But for the most part, you know, buildings have a utility budget, and as long as that doesn't go over that budget, nobody really says much. You know, building staff are very, very busy people. Most of them, as time goes by, more and more of them, they don't have enough staff. So they are reacting to whoever screams the loudest. I'm hot on 4th floor, go there. Building staff most of the time also aren't always energy efficiency experts. So this bill will change all of that. Building owners will have to, you know, become more educated, and we're all here for them to do that. They will become more educated. They will have people helping them through this, and they will become more aware because they have to. So really excited about that. The third reason I'm excited about this bill is because, again, I work for a Montgomery County-based business, and we're going to benefit from this legislation. We sell, install, and service HVAC equipment and energy management systems in hundreds of buildings in the area. When our clients need to save energy after they tackle their lighting, they call us and they say, hey, can you help us make our energy efficient, or make our systems more energy efficient, because obviously we do that big hunk, the HVAC. Those energy efficiency projects give me a job and afford me to live in the county. They give over 350 other people currently at Boland a job. Tradespeople, mechanical engineers, energy engineers, accountants, warehouse helpers, cleaners, plant waters. Yes, we have a plant water. They give all of us a job, and that will grow, we hope. And also all of the subcontractors. We have loads of subcontractors that we hire that live and work in the county. We buy materials at shops in the county. We eat at lots and lots of Montgomery County restaurants. So, thanks to all who tirelessly worked on this bill. Thanks to all who passed it. I know that I will do my part both personally and professionally through my job to support all Montgomery County building owners and to make it happen. So, thank you.
I will take care of it. Thank you very much, Julie. I appreciate that. I'll tell you what the world needs more of is tree-hugging granola girls and guys. So representing the nonprofit environmental community, I'm glad for your work and that enthusiastic vote of confidence. Thank you, Marc, Elrich, and Tom Hucker, and everybody here from DEP and others. I'm Adam Roberts. I'm the Executive Director of Bethesda Green, and we're a member of the Montgomery County Climate Action Plan Coalition, which is a group of 14 local climate advocacy organizations working to ensure that the county's ambitious climate action plan goals are achieved expeditiously, funded fully, and implemented swiftly. And many will notice, Councilman Hucker did at the beginning of his remarks, that then Councilman Elrich was one of the lead sponsors of a resolution back in 2017 declaring a climate emergency in Montgomery County, setting the important goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 80% by 2027 and 100% by 2035. But that resolution wasn't a declaration of an emergency, it was a call to action. The subject of that resolution was emergency climate mobilization. And it called for action from county officials, state officials, and federal government officials to tackle the climate crisis. Now, we know that we can't tackle greenhouse gas emissions without tackling building energy consumption. The bill that Mr. Elrich is signing today takes an important step in expanding the number, size, and types of buildings covered by county building energy benchmarking requirements and represents significant progress in reducing the negative climate impact of thousands of Montgomery County buildings, encompassing hundreds of millions of square feet of building space. Now, on behalf of Bethesda Green and the nonprofit community, I can tell you that I have personally witnessed the indefatigable efforts of the county team at DEP working to arrive at this moment. The stakeholder meetings, the planning sessions, the public briefings, the county council work sessions, all on what amounts to a very technical matter. So I fully appreciate that this is a hard-won victory for Montgomery County. And I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege here because I think it's rare to be in the presence of someone, and I'm talking about Lindsay, who will have forgotten more about BEPS than I will ever learn. And it's also rare that she will be able to get a round of applause from both the county executive and the chairman of the Transportation and Environment Committee. So I do want to take a moment to recognize her hard work on all of this. I should have prefaced that with the phrase, sparing her blushes. However, as a member of the nonprofit community working on climate action, I will say, now that I have your attention in this room, that we wouldn't be climate advocates if we hinted for a moment that this was the end of our work. There is much to be done to fulfill the promise of the county's climate action plan and achieve the vitally important goals of greenhouse gas emission reductions in the next 5 years. We need action on forest conservation and stormwater mitigation and solar expansion and adaptation and carbon sequestration and MCPS sustainability plans and so much more. And we need to bring residential buildings eventually into this BEPS regime as well. There is a lot of work that we all need to do. But I also know that our work is not yet done on BEPS. With apologies to Lindsay and the team. Implementation regulations need to be developed in the coming 18 months. A BEPS advisory board needs to be convened, and a broad public engagement and education campaign will have to be implemented to ensure building owner compliance. So I say to you here today on behalf of the Montgomery County Climate Action Plan Coalition that we stand willing and ready to work with you, Mr. Elrich, Mr. Hucker, and others, everyone at DEP, to facilitate implementation of the new BEPS bill and achieve the other ambitious climate goals outlined in the Climate Action Plan. So thank you for including the nonprofit community in your day-to-day, and congratulations on this hard-won victory. Thank you.
Thanks, but no thanks for that. I don't need the blushing. Wow, honestly, we wouldn't get here if it weren't for our passionate stakeholders, the folks from finance, building industry, building owners, and our environmental community. That's exactly why we're here and that we have a successful bill. And Adam's right. We have a lot of work ahead of us. We have a lot of work that we need to do. Hopefully later today, you'll be seeing an announcement that we'll be recruiting for our advisory board. So I hope that the folks who are here speaking or in this room today would volunteer to be on that board. We would greatly appreciate it. And we have regulations coming up. We will need your voices in the room. Having your voices in the room makes better policy, and it makes for better implementation. So we really need your activity, your bodies in the room, your people at the table. So please join us in making better policy. With that, I'd like to invite the county executive to come up for the actual signing. This is like the biggest moment. I was telling Emily that this is like our Academy Awards for policymakers, so get excited.